All right. Hello there. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for making time to watch us. This is the Personal Finance series. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Personal Finance series. We welcome you to our maiden edition this evening. We'll begin the program in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. I am Monica Anbunab, the co-host for the night. I'm also here with our host, Mr. Sam Hagan, and I'm going to allow him to take us through the overview of Personal Finance Series. Someone will ask, what is Personal Finance Series? What are we about? What should we expect from you? All these questions and more will be answered by our host, Mr. Sam Hagan. Kindly take over. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Good evening,
Good evening,
everyone.
everyone.
This is Personal Finance Series.
Personal
We are hopeful that at the end of this series, you will learn something about personal finance. The major purpose of the personal finance is to enlighten people on their personal finance and help them to know how to manage things like investment, personal investment, retirement, debts, and everything that has to do with personal finance. So follow us on our social media handles for more of such books. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much for giving us an overview of what Personal Finance Series is about. To continue from where you stopped, I would like to talk about the vision and the mission of Personal Finance Series. The vision of Personal Finance Series is to be the number one financial series in Ghana, providing financial education to the public. Our mission. Our mission is to educate the public, especially individuals, on a conscious path to financial freedom. This would be delivered through weekly series, monthly seminars, and yearly programs. I personally believe that our efficient management of finances individually would go a long way to grow our economy. Without much ado, I would like to introduce our speaker for the night. And we've already seen him. He's no other person than Mr. Sam Hagan, who also doubles as our host for the night. Mr. Sam Hagan is a personal finance educator and an investment banker with experience in the asset management industry. He has professional certificates in wealth management from the Corporate Finance Institute, UK, and is licensed by the Ghana Stock Exchange. Sam had his first degree in accounting and is currently a relationship officer in one of Ghana's leading investment management firms in Ghana. He is going to take us through debt management, specifically how to borrow profitably. Before we continue, I would like you to type in the comments section what you think borrowing is about. How do you understand borrowing? Do you think we should borrow at all? Kindly make time, relax, and listen to Mr. Sam Hagan as he gives us the presentation on how to borrow profitably. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Monica.
Monica.
Uh, you're welcome once again, listeners. I'm hopeful that this presentation will reach us well and help us make decisions concerning debt management. Today, on our first episode, we are looking at how to borrow profitably. Someone will also say how to borrow wisely. Borrowing has become part of our lives. So it's very, very important for us to know why we must borrow well. This is my profile, I think has been said already. So during this short presentation, I will talk briefly on the history of borrowing. I'll also mention what debt management is, and then the wrong ways that we borrow, the things to consider before you borrow, then the right ways to borrow, and then the cost of borrowing. So at the end of this, let me say lecture, I believe that everyone here should know how to know the things that are wrong when it comes to borrow, and know how to make good decisions when a person wants to borrow. And I know when you go through this slides very well, you should come out perfectly how to borrow. First of all, let's look at the history of borrowing. When we look back in the ancient Mesopotamia ages, we realize that in those ages, especially in the 1800s or uh, in the olden days, I would say borrowing wasn't, you know, that common because of how people were separated and people were not together. So when they talk about borrowing came as a result of when trading started. So when trading started, people who didn't have the currency to trade were forced to get things that they need to get down so that they will be able to cater for what they want. So in so doing, when they go asking for the things that they have to represent themselves with something. So example is if I want to take um, something from Monica, but I don't have anything to give to Monica, I have to give Monica something and take what I want need from Monica. So in today's world, that could serve as a collateral, or in their terms, they were seeing that as an interest. When you bring the thing, then whatever you left with them will be guaranteed. So they were seen as an interest, and in another way as a collateral. Yeah. So I'll mention the briefs on what you need to know about the history of borrowing. So as you can see, the practice of lending has been around for 1,000 years, and it started with the ancient world. Okay, then lending at interest rates or interest was a point of contention with ethics and religion. And religion had closer relevance to state laws and culture, particularly during the Middle Ages. Lending also played a large role in the 1080s America, as it encouraged working class citizens to become financially stable through saving and home ownership. For centuries, your ability to borrow was based on your spoken reputation and character. So in those days, no one will give you something if the person doesn't know you, and the person doesn't really trust that you get it back. In those days, it wasn't about borrowing money, but it was valuable as compared to money. So uh, before you borrow, your ability to borrow was based on your spoken reputation and then your character, but has since evolved to be dependent on computerized credit score. That is what we could term as the introduction of interest rates and the collateral system. Now, let's look at what debt management is. When we talk about debt management, what do you think debt management is? I know you all have your thoughts on that. I would like you to put on the comment section what you think debt management is. Debt management is a way to get your debt under control through financial planning and budgeting. The goal of debt management plan is to use strategies to help lower your debt and move towards eliminating it. So the second statement makes you or helps you understand that debt is not a bad concept. Growing up, many people think debt in itself is a bad concept. And when it's a bad concept, people think it is bad to borrow. So the purpose of this webinar, especially debt management, is to help people understand that it is not bad to borrow. There's a way you can borrow. When you borrow profitably, how do you go by that? You have to know how to manage your debt. Remember, borrowing profitably is not just does not end if you are not able to manage it well. So that brings us to debt management. So you will have to know how to manage debt. You have to know how to control it. How do you control it? Through planning and then budget. That is everything. If you have some comments, you can bring them on board as well. Now let's look at wrong ways of borrowing money. Uh, I know there are some things here that will contradict with some of our beliefs, but I am hopeful that with this lecture, you will take into consideration what I have considered here because I have made some research on it and it's professionally backed. Taking loans with interest rates higher than inflation rate. Taking loans with interest rate higher than inflation. Many people take loans because of the stress and then the pressure on them to get some things done. They go for loans that has interest rates higher than the inflation rate. So in Ghana currently interest rate is 45% as we speak, and then inflation rate on government borrowing on government is around 28. So you could see that there is a gap, and that is very, very understandable. But if you go for a loan that is offering you interest rate for 50%, then should tell you that not it is not good, because in the right sense, how are you going to finance this loan? How are you going to pay back this loan since the interest that you are paying is higher than the inflation on the profit you are going to make after taking this loan? I don't know what you're going to pay, but whatever you're going to use the loan for, inflation has already depreciated the value of the money. Yeah, so it is not good for you to take loans that are higher, that have higher interest rate than normal inflation rate. So take note of that. It's a wrong way of borrowing. Another thing you have to take note of is taking loans or borrowing with interest rates higher than estimated profit from what are going to use the money for. So let's say you're going to use the money to start a business, and after doing your rough estimate, you realize that in a year the uh, the business is going to fetch you a profit margin of 20% of the money you started with. The money you started with is the money you borrowed, and then that 20% is the profit you are estimating you are going to make out of the business. Okay, but the interest rate on the loan is 25%, meaning you are running 5% loss. You are going to work for the lender and then give him the 25%, and then you use the money and then you go 20%. Do you get me? So it means that you are actually borrowing to work for the lender. So by the end of the day, the interest you are paying is higher than the profit you are going to make on the business or the reason why you borrow. It might not be business, it might be something else. It might be uh, borrowing to cater for some expenses, borrowing to, and I call it them liabilities. If they are not bringing you cash back to your pocket, they are liabilities. So this brings us to the third point, which is borrowing money to spend on liabilities. What are liabilities? In my own definition, a liability is anything that does not bring you money back. So food is a liability. It doesn't bring you money back. In fact, rent is a liability. If you're not going to rent any part of the place that you have rented, you're not getting any money back. and it's a liability. Bills are liabilities. Those are so all these things are liabilities. So when you're borrowing money to go and buy food, you should know that you are borrowing money to spend on liabilities. If you are borrowing money to go and fix your phone, whilst you know you're not getting anything profitable from your phone, then you should know that you are borrowing money to spend on liabilities. And it's not advisable. It is a very, very key thing that I want us to notice. It's not advisable to borrow to spend on a liability. There's a debate on whether certain expenses are liability or example is school fees. Someone can also say that okay, my school fees is not a liability to me because at the end of the day, I know what I will get from my school fees. Yes, but what if at the end of the day you don't get anything? Then it means the school fees or the loan you took or the school fees is a liability now, has become a liability. So you should know how to um, define your liability and then the kind of thing you are going to use the money for, the money you are borrowing, what you're going to use it for before you go borrowing that money. Because what could be a liability for you might not be a liability for me. You understand? So borrowing money to spend on liability is a wrong way of borrowing money. You should take note of it. The next point is borrowing money from a disreputable lender, someone who doesn't have any reputation, or an organization that doesn't have reputation. So let's say you borrowed money from a family member or a friend who doesn't have a reputation. At the end of the day, the person will go disgracing you if you are not able to meet the terms and conditions or terms and conditions about. There are other organizations I know of one in Ghana that will come at you that you will even regret taking money from them. Yeah. So before you go out taking loans, even from friends and relatives, you should go for loans from people that have good reputation. People that have good reputation. Organizations that have good reputation. The fact that the person will come chasing you doesn't mean the person doesn't have good reputation. If you go against the rules, why not? Maybe they will chase you. Yeah. But you should, some people genuinely do not have good reputation. Yeah. And it will affect your relationship with them and then the loan. So it is very advisable not to borrow from a disputable lender, being it an organization or any. The fifth point I will come up on is borrowing money from several lenders. This is also another way of borrowing, another wrong way of borrowing. You are now taking money from organization A, organization B, organization C, individual B, taking money from a lot of people. You know, I had a time in my life where I took money from almost everybody around me. But if you are my friend, I've taken money from you before. Yeah, you know, and later on, after I had my education on debt management, I realized that in finances, I realized that having a lot of lenders or several lenders is a bad reputation to yourself. So it is not advisable to have several lenders, to borrow money from a lot of places, a lot of people. Don't mistake it with the amount you are borrowing. You can choose an individual or an organization that when you are in time of need, you go to this organization, you go to this individual. You understand? And if you treat your lenders right, you should be able to have a one or a limited number of lenders. Yeah, it is not advisable to have a lot of lenders, a lot of people borrowing, a lot of organization you are taking money from. I hope I am clear on that. And the last point I will come up on when we talk about uh, ignorance, when we talk about borrowing money, is ignorance on the terms and conditions. Many people who borrow because of the pressure to borrow, do not take time to go through the terms and conditions they have with their lender. So you have to sit down. If you are borrowing from a friend, borrowing from an organization, you have to sit down, analyze. When am I paying back? Am I paying back with an interest? What amount of interest am I paying back with? When are you taking your money? Uh, is there any change to this if I'm not able to meet the requirement, or if I'm not able to go according to the terms and conditions? Is there any extra charge? What could happen to me? Make sure you exhaust everything you need to know about the loan, especially when it comes to loans with interest or loans from companies or institutions. You have to be literate about the terms and conditions concerning the loan. Don't say you were inherited the loan, so you didn't take that into consideration. When it is time for you to repay or make repayment, that is where you will see the essence of you taking the terms and conditions very serious. So please make sure you put that into consideration. Yeah. These are the 6 main mistakes many people do when it comes to borrowing money. There are a lot of them, but I categorize them 6. And I know there are a lot of ways that people borrow wrongly. So if you also have some points in mind that I have not mentioned, you can put them in the comment box. I think it will be very useful to some of us. Now let's look at things to consider before you borrow. A lot of people do not consider these things before they borrow. They think borrowing money is just borrowing. But I want to make this clear that borrowing money basically is spending your money in the future, or spending your future money. So in Ghana, when we say the economy or the government has borrowed money, we are saying the government is spending the money of our generation. Okay. So when you borrow money, you are spending your future money. When I borrow money from Monica, 20 cedi from Monica, and I said I'll give it to him, I'll give it to her on Monday, it means I am spending my 20 cedis on Monday. 20 cedi I will have on Monday. And then so it is bad to borrow when you are not using it for anything. So now, what are some of the things you have to consider before you borrow money? How stable is your income? How sure are you you will be able to pay back? Do you have a stable income? In fact, the money you are borrowing should not exceed times 3 of your income. Example is you can't be earning 1,000 cedis and borrow 3,000 cedis if you are paying back in a short period. How are you going to pay that? So how stable is your income? Do you have a secure job? What are your regular expenses? Do you spend almost 90% of your income? If that is it, then if you are going to borrow and then you are spending 90% of your income on expenses, then what margin of your income are you going to use to later for the loan? You understand? So these are very vital things you need to consider before you borrow money. What are your long-term financial goals? It could affect why you should not borrow or why you should borrow. Will you be able to save money even when or even with the increased debt load? This is a very critical question. Ask yourself that you are going to take that loan. After taking that loan, what are some of the major expenses you need to cut off because of that loan, including your monthly savings? Maybe I took 3,000 or 5,000 from a friend. Because of that, I won't be able to invest or save anymore for the next 1 year. That money you're borrowing has affected your investment saving life. You need to consider that before you borrow. The last thing you need to consider, of course, there are a lot of things to consider. The last thing I fix in here is how much cash do you need on hand each month to feel comfortable. I have um, a term that, or a five main ways that you could be financially stable that could help you to be financially stable. And then one of the points that I gave was that uh, was emphasizing on the 70-20-10 rule, where I emphasize on the fact that everyone who wants to be financially stable should know how to spend only 70% of his or her income, 20% on savings and investment, and then 10% on uh, religious issues, let's say tithing. Yeah. So if you are able to spend 70% of your income, then 20% goes into your investment savings, no matter what. Yeah. So in this case, you know that 70% of your income makes you comfortable at the end of the month. Meaning, if you take some portion out and you have only 60% of your income, are not going to feel comfortable. So that's if you are taking a loan that is giving you money or that is giving you a principle for you to pay back, that is going to affect more than 50% of your money, monthly income, then it means you are only going to depend on 40% of your income. And are you sure you're going to feel comfortable depending on only 40% of your income? You have to consider this before you borrow. Because many times people borrow and then it becomes a chain on their neck for a long time. And the most surprising thing is what they even borrow to go and do is not profitable. People borrow to go and marry. Can you imagine? To go and marry, to spend on marriage, and marriage or marriage ceremony doesn't bring you anything. Yeah, doesn't bring you anything back. So imagine going to borrow to marry, and then you need to be paying 50% of your salary off every month to cater for that loan for 2 years. When you're going to manage yourself with the 50% that is left, are you sure you will be able to live on 50%? That is what this question is asking. How much cash do you need on hand each month to feel comfortable? If you know, oh, my salary is 1,000, but every month, if I have 600 cedis, I'll feel comfortable. So if I'm taking this loan that the lender said I will be giving her 400 CD monthly, I think I can be paying that and I'll still feel comfortable because I have 600. That will help me, cater for other expenses. So this is something you need to consider before you borrow. Now let's go to one of the most important parts of this line, that is the right ways to borrow money. The first thing to look at is always look for an interest-free loan. This is the first point to look out if you are looking at borrowing profitably. You need to look for interest-free loan. Most of the times, interest-free loan are gotten from family and friends. Yeah, and research also shows that there are some NGOs who also give free loans or interest-free loans. So you should also look at that. But in times where the economy is hard and people are not stable, it is sometimes hard to get interest-free loan. So you have to go for a loan with an interest. But remember the wrong way of borrowing, which says that your interest rate on your loan shouldn't be more than your inflation rate in the economy. Yeah. So if you don't get an interest free loan and you're going for a loan with interest, make sure you get a loan that has an interest at least be halfly below your inflation rate. Halfly below. That will be comfortable for you. And the next way of borrowing rightly is to avoid loans with interest rates higher than estimated profit of what you are going to use the money for. So if you know you're going to use the money for a business that will fetch you 20% as the scenario I gave earlier, but the interest rate is 25%, then you should know you're working for your lender. Yeah. So always make sure that what you're going to use the money for is fetching you more money than the interest rate plus the principal of the loan. You understand? In an idle, or in short, I want to say make sure you are making profit from the money you are borrowing. Don't let pressure force you to get money to cater for things that will, at the end of the day, be an expense to you. Thirdly, avoiding loans with interest rates higher than the inflation rate. Higher than the inflation rate. Spending borrowed money on assets and not liabilities. Do you want to borrow right? You have to know how to spend borrowed money on things that will be profitable to you. So I call assets things that brings you money back. Okay. So example is borrowing money to invest in an investment vehicle that is offering more interest rate than the interest rate on your loan. I found out by research that Dangote, one of the richest men in Africa, is fan of doing that. In fact, they said he borrows from many banks in um, Nigeria and then use it to invest in vehicles, in same investment vehicles that are fetching him more interest than the interest rate on the loan that he borrowed. So that's a smart way of borrowing. Make sure what you are borrowing is an asset and is bringing you more income than the interest or the debt burden of your loan. The burden, okay? So the feed point is borrowing money from a reputable lender. Who's a reputable lender? Someone who will not disgrace you if you go to someone who will understand a debt restructure. It's all part of the consideration in the first place. You guys need to consider those things as part of the policies. So an organization that will be willing to restructure your debt with you can be a reputable lender. An organization that will not represent you wrongly will be a reputable lender. You know, there are some family and friends that will lend to you, and then in the next month, even if it is not time for you to pay out, you will go out and you hear your news all around that that person has lent money to you. That person is very reputable. And then lastly, make sure the repayments of you are on time. If you are not able to meet the policies or the principles that you put in place with the lender to settle your loan, you're not able to meet it, make sure you go back to your lender, sit down with him or her, and then reschedule or restructure your debt. Let her know why you will not be able to pay on the set date that both of you agreed on, and then propose another time that you feel you will be able to pay, and then make that uh, commitment. Yes, so making repayment on time is a very good way to borrow because it gives you good reputation so that the next time when you are in need of that cash or to borrow, you will be given the opportunity. I'm rounding out, and then the next thing that we will take care of, I will talk to you about is I'll be ending my slides with a quote, a very interesting quote that I know most of you will be confused after reading. It goes by saying that borrow a little, and if you can't pay back, it's your problem. Borrow a lot, and if you can't pay back, it's the lender's problem. Borrowing and lending carry equal weight of sorrow, but your sorrow weighs more when you lend what you borrow. Interesting, right? This quote or this message is from one American called Willie Way, and I wouldn't say much about this quote. I want you to bring up what your thoughts on these quotes or what you think about all that I have said. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, please let us hear them on the comment box, and then reach us on our Facebook and our social media. Let's interact and then get ready for the episode, the second episode of this debt management. We are not certain on what the second episode will be on, but based on your interactions and then your comments, it would also let us know what we should tackle during the next episode. Still based on the debt management. Thank you so much for listening. I know you have a lot of questions in there. Please bring up your questions in the time box and the comment box and then thank you so much. Monica, thank you so much. I think you can take it up from here.
Uh, okay, so thank you for the presentation. We are really enlightened. To continue, I would like to ask you some few questions. Probably, I'm sure my audience will, or our audience would like to also ask you same questions, but then we'll be taking theirs from the comment section. So let me ask this question so that you answer for all of us to at least be educated. In your presentation, you said borrowing money to spend on liabilities, as you said, is a wrong way. But per my accounting knowledge, creditors are liabilities to us. So what if I'm being threatened by my creditor, whom I didn't take money from or I didn't borrow money from, but rather he or she supplied me with goods? So what if I'm being threatened by this creditor that I was got goods from, and then I go and borrow money from a different person to pay this creditor? Am I wrong to save my life? What do you say about this?
Thank you so much, Monica, for Thank you so much, Monica, for the question. I think this question can be tackled in two ways. You are owing someone, and terms and conditions was set on the loan, and then maybe you have gone contrary to the terms and condition, and then the creditor has to be hard on you a little to get his or her money, and you don't have the money. So the question is, you are going to take the money from another person still on loan, to get the money on loan from someone, and then pay your creditor and be free from the the reason why I said this question, response to this question is in two ways. Is if your creditor is uh, give you the goods on maybe with some interest to pay back since you are paying late, and then the money you are taking from the other person to pay this also has some interest since you are borrowing from the person, this time cash. If that interest you are bringing in, the new interest from the new lender, is more than the interest of your already existing creditor, it will be advisable to manage your creditor and not go for that loan. That's the first scenario. But if you think maybe you can get the money from a friend, you can borrow the money from a place where you could get a less interest rate than what you are paying to the creditor, or even one with no interest rates, and then to set you up free from the drama, then you can go ahead to take the money from the other lender and then settle your case. Then go back to settle the other person as well. So it's in two ways. Whichever way, the best advice is for you to do something that will not cost you more. Yeah, I think you've been answered.
Yes, you have. Thank you. And I'm sure our audience would also be satisfied with your answer to the question. One last question is, you said we shouldn't take money from several lenders. But I'm asking, what if the amount of money we want cannot be provided by just one lender? So let's say I go to um, a bank. Let me use a family or a friend instead. I go to a family or a friend for a loan, and I asked for 3,000, and the person was able to provide me with just 1,005. Do you say that because I'm going to increase the number of lenders, I shouldn't get the money to top up from other people to do what I'm supposed to do? How then do I get the complete amount I want to use?
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you.
I think
I
that's a
think that's a
smart
that's my
question.
question.
Um,
Um,
I think my response to this question will be that you are considering the point I made to be um, having a lot of lenders, okay? And with a lot of lenders, I'm not talking about two, I'm talking about many. So, and it's about damaging your reputation. You know, when it comes to debt or loans, when conditions do not go very well, it can damage the relationship you have with the person or your reputation. So when I talk about not making a lot of taking a lot of making a lot of lenders, as in taking a lot of money from a lot of people. Yes, I'm talking about having bad reputation with a lot of people, or I'm talking about taking money from this person, that person, that person, that person, and continue taking money from different people. Now, I'll come back to your question, but what I'm saying is that make sure um, the new person you're going to take money from, at least you have exhausted the people you have taken money from already. If the first person couldn't give you 1,005, probably there's someone you have also been taking money from. That person is already has borrowed you money before. So maybe you guys have that. You can take the money from him again. I mean, let's say right now, as I'm speaking with you right now, example is I am having five people that whenever, as in last 5 years, I went to A, last 3 years, I went to B, last 2 years, I went to C, like for five people. And then this time around, I need money again. I didn't go to any of the five people. I'm going to another person. Meaning I am spreading the fact that I need money to a lot of people. Do you get me? You're creating a lot of people to help you. And I think when it comes to that, you are damaging your reputation when it comes to that. Yes. So I feel the five people that you have been taking money from already should go to them, let them know your issue, and then I believe they will be in the capacity to help you. If they are not, then you are challenged to create another lender, create another supplier, someone who supply you, and then you the person becomes so that will be not advisable, but that will be the only case you have. And then that one I will suggest an organization. Yeah, so it's an organization. But when it comes to organizations too, you can't, before you go and lend money from any bank, and it has to do with huge, loans, um, there will be a cross check on your profile as to whether you are owing some amount somewhere that you have not taken care of. Yeah, so maybe you have borrowed from Fido, or you are owing mobile money plenty, you didn't pay. You're going to take money at Zenith Bank. You're going to take salary loan or something. The net bank will go through, they have a name for it. They will go through a system and then they realize that you are owing mobile money and you haven't paid for the past 5. That is if mobile money has gone ahead to uh, you know put your name in a system where it shows that you are owing and you are not being able to pay your money, or any other bank that will put your name at a place where it shows that you are owing and you have not been able to pay your money. It means that if they realize that, then they are not going to pay you. They're not going to, as in, they're not going to mind you. Yeah. So because they have realized that you have bad record of borrowing, that is why it's advisable to stay with, you know, and limited number of people or organizations. I think
Thank
you are.
you. Yeah. Yeah, I'm okay. Thank you very much for your answers. So, in short, these organization or banks would try to check your credit worthiness before they grant you a loan. Thank you so much. We want to say a big thank you to God Almighty for bringing us to a successful end. As we said earlier on, kindly share your questions or everything you think you would want us to elaborate more on in the comment section so that we can interact with you. We would also leave our WhatsApp number in the comment section so that you can test us to add you to our WhatsApp group. We'll be sharing our slides, the slides we use for the presentation today. We'll be sharing it on our WhatsApp platform. So if you are not on it, you can test the number that will be left in the comment section to be added. Thank you so much for your time, and we wish to see you in our next episode. Thank you and have a good night. God bless you. Bye bye.